The grain that feeds half of the world just surged 20% in a single month. This is the biggest monthly increase since 2008. In 2008, rice peaked in May. Lehman Brothers fell in September. Here's the full story and the 5 things to stock up on before prices of food skyrocket.
That bag of rice costs more than it did 2 months ago. So does the pasta. The starch aisle has been creeping up, and you could not find a clean explanation for it. Here is the explanation. Thailand white rice, the international benchmark price that importers around the world use to set contracts for the grain that feeds approximately 3.5 billion people, just posted a 20% increase in a single month. That is the largest monthly surge since the data series began in 2008. Chicago rice futures rose 15% the same month. The FAO, which is the United Nations agency that tracks global food prices, confirmed its food price index hit 130.7 in April, the highest level since February 2023, and the 3rd consecutive monthly increase. This is not a seasonal fluctuation. It is the beginning of a supply chain sequence that takes 6 to 9 months to travel from an Asian field to your grocery aisle. You are inside that window right now. Today, you are going to find out where this started. Today, you are going to find out where this started, what happened the last time this sequence ran, and what to put on your shelf before the September harvest report sets winter wholesale pricing. The chain starts with fertilizer, and if you watched our previous video on the Hormuz disruption, you already know this part. Here is what has changed since then. 1/3 of all globally traded nitrogen fertilizer transits the Strait of Hormuz. Iran shut 7 urea and ammonia plants this year. Urea is the primary nitrogen fertilizer used in rice production across Southeast Asia. When those plants shut and the shipping routes through the strait were disrupted, fertilizer prices in Thailand, Cambodia, and the Philippines rose approximately 50% from late February into May. Asian farmers did not stop planting. They planted the same acreage with significantly less fertilizer per acre. Less fertilizer per acre produces lower yield per acre without reducing the planted area. That is why the production shortfall arrives as a surprise in the harvest data. The fields look the same from a satellite. The yield does not. The FAO's chief economist, Maximo Torrero, confirmed on the record that the effective disruption of the Strait of Hormuz has continued to drive up urea and phosphate prices, undermining fertilizer affordability and increasing risks to future agricultural production. That statement is forward-looking. The harvest consequence has not arrived yet. In Vietnam's Mekong Delta, the most productive rice-growing region in the world's 3rd largest rice exporter, a 60-year-old farmer named Tran Van Bie Bay used to plant 3 crops a year. This cycle, he is skipping one. With costs rising and weather this hot, he said through Bloomberg, it is not a good time to sow a new crop. That decision is already made. The crop is already not planted. The production shortfall it represents is already locked in before any harvest report confirms it. The Philippines warned that El Niño conditions could cut paddy rice production by 700,000 tons. The Philippines is the world's largest rice importer. Every ton that does not get grown in Vietnam or Thailand lands on the Philippines import bill and on the contracts every other importer is competing for at the same time. If you watched my previous video about the food price shock and the ceasefire on this channel, you already know Alexandra Prokopenko's name. She is a fellow at the Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center and a former advisor at the Bank of Russia. In mid-March, she warned on the record that disruptions to the Strait of Hormuz would translate into higher food prices in 6 to 9 months. Mid-March plus 6 months is mid-September. Mid-March plus 9 months is mid-December. The FAO's May 2026 data is landing inside the exact window she named. That is not a forecast anymore, it is a confirmation running on schedule. It is just not rice, and the other foods that are rising are alarming. Food at home prices rose 0.7% from March to April 2026 alone, the largest one-month increase in nearly 4 years. Fresh vegetables up 11.5% year over year. Beef and veal up 14.8%. fresh tomatoes up 39.7%, and the Rice Shack has not fully transmitted yet. Thai 5% broken rice reached $446 per ton as of May 20th, the highest since February 2025. These prices are the leading edge. Alibaba's commodity research team placed the benchmark at $682 per metric ton, a 34% year-over-year increase and the highest level since 2008.
Hey, real quick, as the price of food keeps running hot, people actually stop paying their mortgages. It's a thing, it's a cycle, and you need to learn about it and how to make a lot of money from this. Links down below to the 4-course package, the real estate crash bundle. It'll teach you everything from real estate cycles, bear markets, what to buy, what to sell, and when to do it in this crisis. All right, links down below. Now let's get back to the video.
The last time this sequence ran was 2006 through 2008. World rice prices rose 217%. Wheat rose 136%. Corn rose 125%. International rice trading prices tripled from $300 to $1,200 per ton between January and May 2008. In Haiti, food riots erupted on April 4th, 2008. 6 people were killed, including a United Nations peacekeeper. The prime minister resigned. In Tunisia, bread prices consuming 40 to 50% of household income for 2 years built the economic kindling that turned a single moment of protest into a revolution, and then into a regional collapse across 20 countries. The 2008 grain shock did not cause the Arab Spring by itself. It built the conditions that made a spark into a fire. Export restrictions alone pushed world rice prices up between 117 and 149% in the first quarter of 2008, confirmed by the Asian Development Bank. When India banned non-basmati exports and Vietnam banned international sales, every importer assumed scarcity even where stocks existed. The self-fulfilling panic was more damaging than the original shortage. Costco in San Francisco limited rice purchases to 5 bags, then 2. Sam's Club limited sales to 4 bags. A major Canadian rice wholesaler reported that Thai shipments abruptly ceased, with their controller saying they had never seen anything like it in the company's history. Rice prices peaked in May 2008. Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy in September 2008. The grain canary sang 4 months before the financial crisis. Most people who lived through 2008 remember it as a bank collapse. The food shock that preceded the financial crisis received a fraction of the coverage. The stocks exist today. The question is whether they stay available. In 2008, India banned exports when domestic political pressure built, not when the stocks ran out. The policy panicked. The question is not whether the supply is adequate. It is whether it stays on the global market when governments decide their own populations come first. Before the September harvest report sets winter wholesale pricing, here's the 5-item stocking list with specific shelf life math. First, white rice. This is the item the Thailand benchmark directly prices. Stored in oxygen absorber sealed mylar bags or food-grade sealed buckets, white rice holds 25 to 30 years, without meaningful nutritional degradation. A 50-pound bag costs $20 to $35, depending on your region. That is 3 decades of shelf life for the price of a single restaurant meal. If you stock one item before fall, this is the item. Second, brown rice. Brown rice retains the bran layer, which carries more nutrition than white rice, and also contains oils that go rancid within 6 months at room temperature. Brown rice is your next 6 months. White rice is your next 30 years. Stock them as 2 separate strategies, not one. Third, wheat berries. A wheat berry is the whole wheat kernel before milling. Stored vacuum sealed with oxygen absorbers, wheat berries hold 30 or more years. Flour goes stale in months. The berry lasts decades. They require a grain mill to use, but they are the most shelf-stable form of wheat available at any grocery or bulk food store. Fourth, lentils. Stored vacuum sealed in cool, dry conditions, lentils hold 10 or more years. Red lentils require no soaking and cook in 20 minutes. They carry the highest protein density per dollar of any item on this list. When the same fertilizer disruption raising grain prices pushes protein costs higher, Lentils are the most cost-effective calorie hedge. Fifth, hard cheese sealed in wax. Properly waxed hard cheeses such as cheddar, Gouda, or Parmesan stored below 65 degrees Fahrenheit hold 25 or more years. Wax sealing is a preservation technique with centuries of documented history. Hard cheese in wax is the highest calorie density item on this list, and the most shelf-stable animal protein available without refrigeration. The bag of rice that cost more last week will cost more again when the September harvest report sets winter wholesale pricing. Prokopenko named the window in March, and the calendar is running inside it on schedule. Tran Van Beebe's skipped planting cycle will not show up in your grocery aisle until the harvest it would have produced fails to arrive. That is the 6 to 9 month lag, and it is already in motion. When the September harvest data confirms what the May price data already told you, what will be on your shelf? Economic Ninja is out. This is the Economic Ninja signing off.